Hello, my friend. Here we are, inevitably speaking about Immanuel Kant's view of evil. Perhaps one of my least favorite ones. For Kant, evil is not about instinct or about society. It is about rational choices. So not unlike Descartes, he is seeking to understand how we can become more rational in relation to the evil we see in the world. He also argued, like Descartes, that humans are free and therefore human beings, according to him, are the only creatures capable of being truly evil. Animals can be dangerous, but they can't be wicked, evil, in that same way. Now, Kant's discussion of evil is most important in his book Religion Within the Limits of Reason Alone, because there he discusses the concept of radical evil. And to understand that, you have to backtrack a little bit to his idea of what is good. So for Kant, an action can only be good if it's done from duty. So duty is defined as being aligned, doing what is right in respect of what he calls the categorical imperative, which is his moral law. Now, the moral law, and I will read this, is to act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. That is probably one of the most famous contributions in philosophy, in modern philosophy, that most people know about. So to make sure that whenever you choose an action, it could be made into a universal law, and that would benefit you in some way, that you would be at ease with that. So that is the categorical imperative. It's an imperative, by the way, that is rife in most religions. So you can find it in Christianity, in Judaism, you can find it in Islam, you can find it to some extent in Buddhism, and you can find it in Taoism in a way as well. So it's not just the Kantian idea. Sartre, by the way, also speaks about it and seems to, believe he has invented it sometimes. But anyway, it is a good rule, clearly. Ask yourself whether, if what you do becomes a rule for everybody else as well, will it still be worth your while doing what you're doing? That is a very good question to ask yourself. So evil is not a failure of the will, it is a choice to prioritize your own inclinations, your desires, your happiness, your fantasies, your selfishness over this moral law, what is right for all of us. And Kant uses the term radical evil for that, radical böse, to describe this as a sort of fundamental taint in human nature. He doesn't mean that we are bad and beyond redemption, but that there is a tendency in our species to put ourselves above this law, and a tendency, therefore, to give in to evil. And then he has several categories that are very similar to Aristotle's one. So he perceives this as, one is we get too frail, we are too weak to do the right thing, we don't follow through, not doing it when we're tempted. It's just human frailty and weakness. Secondly, we are impure. We do the right thing, but we do it for the wrong reasons. So we might speak honestly because we're afraid to be found out or to lose our reputation, rather than because we're actually committed to truth. I think he's very, very right about that. And we also can be wicked out of perversity. So that's radical evil, to actually consciously choose to adopt something evil and negative that puts you above the moral law. It's like you change the rules, and that wickedness is a very devilish kind of thing, obviously. So all of that, however, for Kant is still within human evil. So there is human evil, which is this breaking of the law because we want to satisfy our desires. Even though we know the law is good, we just do special pleading and we make an exception for ourselves. And he opposes this to diabolical evil, which would be evil that is done because it is evil, deliberately because it's evil. So there's a sort of hating of the good and the moral law. Now, Kant argued that human beings are not capable of diabolical evil, that they're only very selfish and very weak, but not devils acting out of pure malice. And therefore, he believed that to change people, you just need to find a way to reorientate them, to decide once and for all that duty will always come before inclination. Now, I think I probably shouldn't criticize him because I'm just trying to give you a flavor of these different philosophies, but this just rings so untrue to me, because it isn't just duty that makes people decide things. It's much more complex than that. But of course, Kant was that kind of person. He was a very rational, very dutiful person who did everything in a very deliberate way, always in the same way, and quite obsessive about it. And he expected all human beings to become like that, which is why I never quite took to Kantian philosophy. So I'm afraid I'm a little bit biased on this one.